Greetings, story listeners. Today we have two stories. First story. Title: My fiancé almost died in a car accident. My MIL told me he cheated on me. My partner was in a terrible car accident, and that's when his mom told me he had been unfaithful with an old flame. Now that he's getting better, I'm struggling with the guilt of wanting to break up. I feel terrible about it. We plan to marry on August 25th in a cozy setting. I've been with him for 6 years, and we've been engaged for 1. These were the happiest times for me. He seemed perfect in every way, until now. The crash happened a month and a half ago. A drunk driver smashed into his car. That night, I was frantic in the hospital, waiting for news as he underwent surgery for many hours. His family was there too. I've always gotten on well with them, especially his mom. She really liked having me around and considered me her own. Being a devout person, she worried about his well-being and confessed to me during this tense time that he had cheated on me 2 months earlier after running into an ex. She said it was because of the stress of wedding planning. Apparently, I had been stressing him out, and in a moment of weakness, he slipped. He regretted it deeply and even consulted his parents, who advised him to keep it a secret. As long as he was remorseful and committed to our relationship, they believed he should move on. His entire family was aware. After the hospital, he stayed with his parents since our apartment doesn't have an elevator. I've been visiting him daily. I haven't told him that I know about his infidelity, and his family acts as if nothing's different. They're relieved he's recovering, and they think my support is crucial for him. Despite everything, he and his parents are now hopeful we can still get married as planned. But I feel horrible because I don't want that. For me, our relationship ended when I learned of his affair. I stayed because I still love him and wanted to support his recovery. I thought the wedding would be delayed, giving us more time for him to get better so I could leave without feeling guilty. I tried talking to his mom today, but she panicked, saying she shouldn't have told me. She pleaded with me not to leave him now, arguing it would crush his spirit while he's still fragile. Since our talk, I've been reflecting on everything, and I'm so angry with him. Even as I was scared for his life, I felt betrayed. We had planned a simple yet beautiful wedding at a manor house, and my family, who aren't well off, are covering the costs. There shouldn't have been any stress, we sorted out the plans quickly. I'm bottling up so much anger, and I'm scared I might snap soon. Update. I recently told my fiancé that I found out he cheated and that our wedding is cancelled. He's now begging for another chance. Just 3 days ago, before I confronted him, I shared my story here. First, I informed my parents, who were paying for our wedding, about the cancellation. I hope they can recover some of their expenses through their home insurance. I offered to cover any remaining costs, but my dad wouldn't let me. Since my fiancé is still living with his parents, I felt outnumbered going there alone. A text or call didn't seem right because he means more to me than that, and I needed to see his reaction firsthand. I wanted him to see the pain he caused. So, I took my mom with me for support. When I told him the wedding was off and why, he broke down and started with the usual desperate apologies. He said he was foolish, stressed, and scared. He claimed it meant nothing and begged for another chance, even suggesting his parents could pay for the wedding and that we could delay it indefinitely. He offered to move back with his parents and let me have the apartment for as long as needed to forgive him. I've never cried so much as when I listened to his excuses and on the way home. I still don't understand why he did this to us. I've been crying myself to sleep since the accident, and yet, finding out felt like a fresh wound. Now, I'm staying in our jointly owned apartment, and he's with his parents. Property prices have dropped recently, and we agreed not to sell for less than what we paid. But as soon as prices rise, we're selling. I've started packing his things. And tomorrow I'm renting a van to move his stuff to his parents' house. Handling his belongings and packing up his clothes made everything hit home. It was more emotional than I expected. why do I still feel so strongly for him? He has reached out by text and called twice. We talked about everyday things and a bit about us. His mom also called, feeling guilty for initially advising him to keep the affair from me and for later telling me without his consent. She expressed disappointment in my actions but acknowledged my pain. She mentioned that he would try his hardest to win me back. I'm annoyed that none of them, including my parents, seem to accept that it's really over. I just want some peace and quiet now, some time to myself. Second story. Title: Dad's girlfriend plans to push me out. My mom died 5 years ago, and I still think about her every day. After she passed, my dad became deeply depressed, and I ended up having to look after myself a lot. This past Christmas, my dad revealed that he had been dating someone for a while. He seemed happier, which was good, but I couldn't help feeling like my mom was being forgotten. He avoided talking about her and removed all her photos. He mentioned that his girlfriend would spend Christmas with us and then move in. I didn't feel great about it but didn't say anything. On Christmas, a tradition my dad and I have is putting the star on the tree together and watching The Grinch. It's a special ritual we've kept alive even through our grief. But this year, while I was briefly away, he and his girlfriend put up the star. They also skipped the movie because she doesn't like it. I felt childish being upset, but I was really hurt. They've been our traditions all my life. During the evening, she didn't make much effort to connect with me and was very focused on my dad. I later told my dad how much this hurt me, but he just told me to grow up and accept that things change. I never warmed up to her because she gave me a bad vibe. She complained to my dad that I wasn't welcoming, so I tried to be nicer since she made him happy. When it was just the two of us, she would ignore me or be rude. Once, she called me a brat and claimed I made my dad's life difficult. I told my dad, but he didn't believe me and accused me of trying to ruin his relationship, saying I wanted him to be lonely. After that, he started ignoring me, and I felt as alone as when my mom had died. One night, unable to sleep, I overheard her on FaceTime in the kitchen, talking about how much she loved my dad but also mocking me, calling me this dumb daughter, and joking about adoption or sending me to boarding school. I cried myself to exhaustion and finally fell asleep. I haven't told my dad about this because I doubt he'd believe me. I miss my mom terribly and now I'm considering moving in with my grandparents, but I don't want my dad to think I'm abandoning him. I'm unsure what to do next. How can I make my dad understand my feelings? Would it be wrong to leave? Update. I talked to my grandparents and shared everything with them. They said I could stay with them if I needed to. Then, I tried talking to my dad again to explain how I felt and what I had overheard. I chose not to record the conversation because I knew he would be upset by that and wouldn't listen. Unfortunately, he didn't believe me this time either, thinking I was just jealous because I had to share him with someone else. Frustrated, I told him I was leaving so he could have his happily ever after without me being a burden. He seemed shocked but didn't respond. I had already moved some of my stuff to my grandparents' place in preparation. My dad and I didn't speak for the rest of that day. My grandfather came to pick me up, and I've been living with them since. I haven't returned home or heard from my dad. My grandparents reassured me that they would handle things with him and that I shouldn't worry about it. I'm hurt that my dad hasn't reached out to see if I'm okay. However, staying with my grandparents has been a relief. My grandmother is incredibly kind, and although my grandfather can seem a bit stern, he's actually very gentle at heart. Second update. My dad came to see me at my grandparents' house, and he brought his girlfriend along. He explained that after discussing it together, they believe it's best for me to stay with my grandparents. He also mentioned that I should come and clear out my room entirely, and he'd help me with that. Furthermore, he suggested that after I collect my belongings, we should take a break from each other and reevaluate our relationship in a few months or however long it takes. His girlfriend added that she would take care of him in my absence. In a few days, I'll be going over with my grandparents to pack up my things and retrieve important documents, as some of you have advised. It seems like I won't be going back to my dad's house anytime soon. I guess I have a new home now. To be honest, some of the comments have been tough to handle, especially those suggesting that I remind my dad of my mom, which might be why he's distancing himself. He's removed all traces of my mom, and it feels like I was the last reminder he wanted to let go of. I really miss her. It seems like my dad wants to start fresh, and unfortunately, I'm not part of that new beginning. So, it looks like this is it.